event coming up shortly in March is Rocky Mountain Oyster Festival, and the less said about that, the better. However, it is a really great weekend. There's live bands and music and food and everything going on. It's an interesting weekend. Anyway, welcome to the Best in Belcher Mine Tour. My name is Mort. I'm going to be your tour guide. Don't be concerned that Mort in most languages means death.
Yeah.
Now you will notice there are hard hats here on your left. You're more than welcome to wear one. You don't have to. You can if you want to. What we do say, if you're over 5'8", you will have to duck once or twice. But what we tell the short people on tour is if you're getting bored, just watch the tall people.
Yeah.
Now the Best of Belcher Mine was initially started in 1859, the cost of just about $2 million. Belcher actually owned several other mines here in the Comstock. He was one of what was known as the Silver Barons. This is just one of his smaller mines. They placed it here, though, because we were right between the two biggest strikes on the Comstock. Just to the south of us was the Gould Curry strike. It took in just over $80 million in silver. Just to the north of us was the largest strike on the Comstock, the Com, Virginia, also known as the Big Bonanza, hence the name of the television series. That took in just over $80 million in silver ore. Now that's 1860 dollars, so we're talking billions between just those two mines. This mine worked hard for 7 years, finally closed in 1872, took in just about $432 in silver.
That's
It was
all.
a failed silver mine. Now
Wow.
there's two ways of looking at that. When there's a large group in here and you've all paid to come in, the owner of the mine now considers this a gold mine.
Yeah.
The
Right.
second way of looking at it, when there's a large enough group, we're probably taking down more in value in silver and gold than they ever actually got out of that.
Yeah. Really.
Now, it wasn't the only failed mine. When you get up here and have a look at this map, you'll notice the rectangular shapes. They represent mining claims. Over 2,000 of them at boom time. Only between 15 and 19 actually paid off and made their owners wealthy.
Wow.
Reason for that is geological. This is a very odd lode that we have here. Normally where you find gold and silver, as you've heard, you find it in veins and in seams, which means once you find some, it gives you some indication which way to go. Not here. It's in pockets, which means number one, you could miss the pocket by a foot on your claim, you'd never know. If you found a pocket, you emptied it, gave you no indication as to where the next pocket was. It was just a matter of luck. I'll point out this more geological aspect when we get further down the shaft. Now, today, Virginia City is a living ghost town. There's only 600 of us permanent residents here. Back in the 1860s, different story. 40,000 people lived here.
Wow.
Want to have a look at the black and white photographs out on the right-hand wall when you go back out? You'll see what the town looked like back then. 40,000 people living here on top of a mountaintop. Now, presumably some of you came up from the Reno area, maybe all of you. What do you think of that road, Geiger Grade? A lot of fun to drive? Imagine what it was like in the 1860s.
Right.
And you had 40,000 people living here. You needed to get food, water, and supplies up here somehow. That was the importance of the completion of the Virginia and Truckee Railroad spur in 1869, connected to Carson City on the main line. That enabled the food, water supplies, and timber to be brought up here, and the ore would be taken down to the mills in Carson River to be processed. Okay, now quite obviously back in the 1860s, they did not have an entrance to a working silver mine coming out of the back of a saloon. The real story is more interesting than that. That area we were just standing in was the reserve vault for the Bank of California. That's what that building was. The Ponderosa building was the Bank of California. It's one of the most historic buildings here. It was built in 1862. Survived all the fires, including the large one of 1875. As the biggest bank here in the Comstock, it bankrolled most of the mining operations. Its president, William Sharon, became known as the king of the Comstock because he did as bankers do. Not only did he bankroll the mining operations, but he foreclosed on them too. So he ended up owning lots of property up here and became one of the richest men. We're actually going to be walking under his house in a minute. He built it on the back of the bank. Now, when you go back out, if you turn left and look left up the first street, you'll see a fluorescent sign that says Sharon House. He wasn't advertising his house. It was a Chinese restaurant in the 1970s. They just haven't taken the sign down. It's just a deserted building now. Now, In 1979, when they wanted to open up this access tunnel with Western Belcher Mines for tours, they had a problem. You'll see when we get to the end, the one and only entrance to this access tunnel is a 50-foot shaft that comes straight down. Can't bring tourists down that. So in 1979, they knocked out the back of the vault, and in the 1980s built this tunnel we just walked through. That's why if you look at it, notice how nice and symmetrical and tall and wide it is, because it was built in the 1980s with power tools and people with engineering skills. From here on down, the further we go down, the older it gets, and you're going to notice how much it changes as we start to move down. You're also going to see a change in timbers as we move on down. You can see a lot of this dark timber. That's the original 150-year-old Ponderosa pine that's still sound because it's very impervious to moisture damage. Now, we have the inspector from the Nevada Division of Mining comes here once a year to give us a safety certificate, because even though it's just a tour mine, it's still considered as a mine by the state of Nevada. And he says these timbers are sound and will probably hold the shaft up. Probably not a great word.
Probably.
So that's why you're going to see this lighter Douglas fir added all the rest of the way down. And in fact, the further down we go, the more of the Douglas fir you're going to see, because that's the older part of the mine. So what you see here on the left is what was the old powder room. This is at the end of the access tunnel. This is where the dynamite, black powder, and blasting caps would have been kept. And you will notice that someone has rolled up some cardboard up there to make us think it's dynamite. At least I think it's rolled up cardboard. That's what we want to see. Now, the other geological thing I was going to point out to you is a good place to see it here in this good light when you get to this point. In this shaft, these two rock faces are only 6 feet apart. When you get here, you'll notice they're not even the same color. They're not the same minerals, they're not the same ores, they're not the same composition. It's known as an amalgam or conglomerate where over millions and millions of years, through pressure and heat and movement, things have jumbled around, squashed together. That's why the ore ends up in pockets. Geologists and rock hounds love it, but it's no good when you're operated winch. Not mispronouncing winch. Most of the original equipment came here from Germany. The miners here just adopted that terminology. So what you have there is an incline winch that goes down to about 100 feet below us. You notice that ore bucket in there was also the method of travel for the miners that worked down below. Not a very pleasant way to get down there. Now they would lower that ore bucket down, fill it full of ore. When they filled it full of ore, they would ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
They would ring the
That's
bell.
your cue.
Nice.
That would be the signal for the winchman to wind the ore bucket up here. He would dump the ore into that ore cart you see in the first opening. When that was full, it'd be brought out here onto the tram lines. Tram lines were taken up in the 1980s to provide better footing and more headroom. A trammer that would then move it to the vertical shaft at the end of this tunnel. A trammer is anything that moves an ore cart. In a small mine like this, it was probably just the men themselves just pushed it down there. However, in the larger mines that work deep below ground, here in the Comstock, they tended to use mules because they were smaller, stronger, and smarter than horses. Bad news for the mules and animal lovers, those mules that went down that deep spent their whole life down there and never came back to the surface again. You'll notice you're separated from the equipment by what's known as braided cable. It's the type of cable used in the bigger mines. Very strong. It's small round cable that's been braided into a ribbon about 5 inches wide. Not only is it stronger, but more importantly, because it's flat, you can wind a lot more of it onto a really big drum. So have a look in these two openings here, and then meet me down here where the tunnel gets dark.
Ooh.
Boy, more dark tunnels.
More tiny tunnel. How do you even get in there?
Watch it down there. Come on, right away. You get right back there, okay?
Oh, yeah, we should get a picture of an eye inside.
Put an eye in a bucket, yeah, right.
There's firewood in
Hey,
there.
take a look. Yeah.
Oh, there's the wind.
I think that's a better job than being on the other end of the ore.
Oh, there's machinery to get you down there. Hey, there you go. That's your machinery to get down there. There's the cable. Okay.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, you can see it now.
Everywhere.
Yeah, you never.
This is real easy to explain. It was unpleasant because everything was done by hand, with hand tools. That means pickaxe, sledgehammers, shovels, chisels. Their job was to break the ore up small enough to get it in the ore buckets or
There's your
carts,
hand
to get it to
tools.
the surface where it was taken to the mill to be
Yeah,
processed
drilling a
and
hole the hard
bleached.
way.
Now, if they couldn't break up the rock face by hand, they would bore a hole and put in black powder or dynamite. They did that using hand drilling tools. If it involved two miners, it was called the double jack method, where the first miner would hold the drilled chisel against the rock face. Second miner, his partner, and hopefully his friend and someone he trusted, would be swinging a 12-pound sledge at it.
Jeez.
After every blow, he'd turn it a quarter of a turn until it was 7 or 8 inches deep. Now, it's not actually that hard to do. It sounds hard, but if you have skills and a sharp enough chisel, you can do it. As proof of this, if you happen to be back in this area or local, Nevada Day Parade in Carson City in October, at the end of that parade each year we hold the World Rock Drilling Championships.
Yeah.
It's now a competitive sport among miners. And in fact, they're going to hold one up here on June 9th in the parking lot next to the Bucket of Blood.
Wow.
Now that's single jack, that's one man with a 4.5-pound sledge and a block of granite, and they're given 10 minutes. So it eventually took this mine down to 200 feet. That's one of the reasons they didn't make money. 200 feet was not deep enough at that time. Now this shaft only has two purposes today, and they're both for us. It provides ventilation for us at this end of the tunnel. And when you do get over here, you'll notice there's a series of ladders and platforms that crisscross all the way to the surface that start right here. It's the emergency exit if we can't get out through the front door. It's not something we want to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you do get over here and have a look, you'll notice though there's a bird cage on the big cage. Has a very poor representation of a canary in it.
Yeah.
That's because miners used to take a male canary with them when they worked deep below ground. Female canaries don't sing. A bird requires 7 times more oxygen than we do. So if your canary stopped singing, you knew it was time to leave.
Time to get out.
Because oxygen was being depleted, or even worse, being replaced with gases.
That's smart.
Now, you've had a look at what looks like work underground in the Comstock in the 1860s. This is the access tunnel, however. The working ones were half this size below us. You also had the benefit of modern electric light. 1860s, work done underground was done by candlelight.
Candlelight. Yeah. Exactly.
Now the miners would have what's known as a miner's tool or a candlestick. There's an example of one here. It basically has various hooks and points. So you can wedge it in different places. It even has a hook so you can hang it over the front of your helmet. There's other configurations out in the glass case, and there's posters of it. So this is the light that miners worked
Oh
in
my gosh.
for 8 to 12 hours underground.
Oh yeah.
Now, I'm exaggerating because, of course, they didn't have just one. They'd have dozens in the area where they were working. But why candles and not kerosene and oil lamps?
Yeah.
What happens when you knock over a
Gas?
kerosene lamp?
Oh.
You got
Fire.
fire. Knock over a candle, it just goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the other reason they lit more than one candle. If you only had one and it went out,
Yikes.
how are you going to get out of here?
Yeah. Really.
That's scary.
Well, but the funny thing is, when I bring school parties down here, it actually gets as daylight when I blow the candle out, because they all turn their cell phones on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Now, if it was so unpleasant and dangerous working underground, how'd they get 7,000 miners to come here and work? By way overpaying them. Average salary was only about 25 cents a day in other industries and other areas of the country. Here, they got paid $4 a day. That's equivalent to $90 of our money. That made you a rich man in the 1860s.
Yeah.
But,
If you live long enough.
yeah, but also the miners were the poorest paid.
Yeah.
If you had skills, you could earn a lot more. Locksmiths got $6 a day. Carpenters could earn up to $8 a day. So the moral of the story is, and this is where the retired teacher part of me comes out, stay in school, get skills. It worked even back in the 1860s. You had a better life.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it brought 7,000 miners here from all over the world, from North America, from North Europe, from South America, Latin America, Asia. If you have time today and it's early enough, you're here early enough, check out our cemetery right on the north side of town on your way back to Reno. Beautifully maintained by a historical society. Go in there and have a look at all the headstones and you'll see all the countries where people came from all over the world to work here. But as you mentioned, of course, they're in the cemetery because they also died. Average life expectancy was only 40 years. Not just miners, everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody. What
Yeah.
was the causes of death? Not because it was the Wild West, it wasn't Indians, mine cave-ins, or fires. It was health issues. You had 40,000 people here. They're only here for one reason: get rich quick and leave. So therefore, health and sanitation issues were not something they were concerned with. We have long, cold, wet winters. Normally, this year is a little different. So influenza was actually the main cause of death here, as it was in most boom towns. In the West.
Sucking in rock dust doesn't help your lungs out at all.
No. And the miners actually had two separate health issues. Not here at 50 feet, where it's just cool and damp, but at 1,500, 2,000 feet, because of the geothermal activity, it's 105 degrees and damp. No masks, poor ventilation, no filters, breathing in that mineral rock and dust and powders. Developed lung issues, emphysema, black lung, pneumonia. Second health issue the miners had, I'll put to you as a question. You were working 8 to 12 hours below ground on your hands and knees by candlelight in 105 degrees. You got to the surface, you were alive, and you had a pocket full of money. What did you do?
Gamble.
That's it.
Yes. During the boom times here, we had 7 churches and over 120 saloons. All those saloons were gaming establishments, and many of them, of course, were brothels too.
Right.
Now, Mark Twain, Samuel Clements, one of our most famous citizens, was the editor of our newspaper here for 18 months, the Territorial Express. He had a saying about those boom times, and I live here in Virginia City. Unfortunately, it still applies today. In Virginia City, we don't have a town drunk. We all take turns. Now, I'm going to, speaking of taking turns, I'm going to back up in here so you can all take turns coming up around here to have a look up this shaft
Look up.
before we head out.
Get up, Aniyah. Come on. There you
And
go.
while you're looking up that shaft, just bear in mind that is only 53 feet, but it looks like a half a mile away because you're looking up a hole.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
It looks so far.
It's a
Yeah.
long one. It's only 52 feet, too.
Why does
Well,
it look so
actually-
far away?
Well, part of that is it is an optical illusion because of the crisscrossing ladder.
Right.
Oh.
But if the ladders weren't there, it wouldn't look so far, but it'd look really desperate because we'd have no way of getting out
Yeah.
of there.
You go up the ladder and we'll go
Yeah,
out that way.
yeah.
You go out
See who gets there
there.
first.
Yeah.
We'll check.
We'll wait for you.
So yeah, come around here and have a look up there before we make our way out towards the entrance.
Has anyone had to use that?
We have to do it a couple of times a year, and in
To
fact,
test it?
2 months ago, the other guy that I'm working with today, Ty, he did it 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Mort. Mort. Is it like against the law to yell cave in?
And then run for the front. Oh.
Like fire? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Don't say fire either. Oh, look, she's skipping her way to the front.
Yeah, she would. I would never want to work down here.
All right, our way out of the mine. The mine that made a whole $462 in silver. It's been a gold mine ever since, though, with people walking through.
It's $18 goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
18 more bucks.
It's 18
More
bucks to
than
get
you
in,
got,
3 of us. Oh, yeah.
It's not very warm down here either.
No, it's pretty cool down here.
Where's all the rocks going?
Huh?
Where did all the rocks go?
They dug them out.
They couldn't leave them here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, look. Some air bellows here. All right. Wait a second. You can't go anywhere. Stop.
Gotta make sure we can escape.
She's got to run out of the mine first. Got to be the first one to get out.